There we are. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you find this video valuable. In this one, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how to add mixed numbers. These are just strategies that I use. There are multiple strategies. You don't have to use just one. So let's see. Let's start with right here. We have 3 and 1/5, and we're going to add 7 and 2/5. Now, luckily with this one, we're just going to start with the fractional parts. We know our denominator is a 5, so we're still adding fifths. If you add the numbers on top, right, when you add the numerators, 1 plus 2, that's going to be 3. And then after you're done with the fraction, you add your whole numbers, and 3 and 7 is going to be 10. Right? Nice and simple. 10 and 3/5. So it's somewhere between 10 and 11. It's 10 and 3/5. But what happens when, let's see if we can figure out what happens here. Same idea. We're going to add 2 and 3/7 plus 9 and 6/7. So we're adding 7, so we bring our denominator down. And you add 3 plus 6, but then what happens here? You notice that your numerator is larger than your denominator. And so we can't leave it like that because that's an improper fraction. So what we want to do, remember, like you saw in the other video, you want to decompose that improper fraction because you want to find the whole numbers that are hiding inside. And here's how you do it. Set up a little addition sentence. You know your denominator is a 7. And then ask yourself, what number needs to go up here to make this a whole number? Well, if I have 7s, I need 7 out of 7. So I have a whole number here. And now I have a numerator that I'm missing. But I really know what that numerator is because if I want to start with 7 and add a number, well, 7 plus what number gives you 9? Well, 7 and 2 gives you 9. So what do we have now? Instead of having 9/7, we have 1, right? We have 1 and 2/7. So we want to remember that mixed number that's sitting there because it has a whole number. Now you can add the 2 plus 9. Well, 2 plus 9 is going to be 11. So it would have been 11 9/7. However, now we know we have 11. So we'll bring the 11 down here. We have 1. So we'll add the 1. And we have 2/7. So we take our whole numbers, 11 plus 1. We add the whole numbers, that's 12. And our fractional part is 2/7. So by the time everything was done with this one, 2 and 3/7 added to 9 and 6/7. We started with 11 and 9/7. We decomposed it. We found the hiding whole number that was inside of this improper fraction. So you take that whole number and you add it to the other whole numbers over here. It's kind of like regrouping when you're adding whole numbers, right? If you have too much in one place value, you give a group to the next higher whole number. Well, with this one, we had too much in our fractions, so we found the whole number and gave it to the whole number, or the ones column, the ones place value. So 11 ones plus another 1 gave us 12, and our fraction was 2/7. Now subtraction is kind of similar. You just follow the same procedure. So we're subtracting 5 and 4/5, take away 3 and 1/5. 1/5. Let's see, our denominator is 5. 4 take away 1 is 3. And the whole number side says 5 take away 3, well, that's 2. 2 and 3/5. Pretty simple. But what happens here? You probably notice right away. If you look at this one, you notice our denominator is a 6. It's 8 and 1/6, take away 3 and 5/6. The problem is you can't take 5 from 1 because you're subtracting. Can't do it. 5 is bigger than 1. So what do? Well, kind of the same idea, like when you're subtracting whole numbers. If you need help, you borrow. Well, let's borrow. Let's borrow from the 8. That gives us 7. But what did we borrow? Think about it. You borrowed one whole, right? You went from 8 and now you're down to 7. So you borrowed a whole number. Well, let's give that whole number to this fraction. This fraction is the one that needs help. Let's give that whole number to the fraction. So you give it 1. But the problem is you can't give a whole number to a fraction, but you can add a fraction and a fraction. Well, what fraction is the same thing as one whole? Well, if my denominator is a 6, my numerator is a 6, that's one whole. That's the exact amount that I just borrowed from the 8. I took one whole and I made it into a fraction and I added it to the fraction that needs the help. So now we have a brand new problem. We have 7 and my fraction now is I still have a denominator of 6 or 6 for both. 1 plus 6, that's 7. And now I can subtract 3 and 5 6 because now my denominator still is 6, but now my numerator can subtract this numerator. That gives me 2. And my whole numbers can be subtracted, and that gives me 4. So 8 and 1 6 take away 3 and 5 6 is going to be 4 and 2 6. And how did we make that possible? We borrowed, just like we borrow with whole numbers. This time we borrowed 1 from the 8, made it 7. We gave that one whole to the fraction that needed help, but we didn't give it a whole number. We gave it a fraction that is a whole number, represents one whole. Then we combined these two and we got 7 over 6. And we brought over our whole number and then we subtracted the bottom mixed number. And there we are, 4 and 2 6. So I hope that helps. It's kind of the same process every single time. You take the whatever you borrow from your whole number, you just give it in the form of a fraction that looks like one whole or a whole number, and then you'll rewrite your problem over here, and then you can subtract. Okay, so I hope that kind of clarifies things. You're using the same skills that you use with whole numbers, right? Remember over here the regrouping. Right? We regrouped the whole number here, the 7 out of 7, and we regrouped it to the next higher place value, which is the ones. And then down here, we needed help, so we borrowed from the next higher place value, and we gave it to the fraction that needed the help. That's the same thing that we do with whole numbers, and we can do the very same thing with fractions. It works the same way. Okay, so I think that's it. But yeah, if you need help, just reach out to your homeroom teacher. Okay.